Pregame.com.
Boise State versus Georgia. Who do you like and why?
I love Georgia in this game. 3.5 points is way too high for Boise to be given on the road. This team has been dominant in recent years, but their most impressive wins, I believe, have come at home. This one is in the SEC country, baby.
So
you're going in favor?
Let's talk about this home. This isn't Georgia's typical home field.
No, it's in the Georgia Dome in
So
Atlanta.
how are you? What point value are you giving this half a home or whatever you want to call it?
I give Georgia 1.5 points for it.
So you're giving, and typically you give 3 at their true home.
3.5, a little more for some college teams.
So this is less than half of the typical home field.
Yeah. Okay. I was extremely cautious with that because the Dome is typically a quick field, and I think Boise State benefits from that as well, being a more offensive-minded, quick team.
That's a good point. All right. So what you're saying, reason number one you like Georgia is because you're saying Boise is usually being looked at as a program as a whole. But in truth, there are two different teams. They're a home team and they're an away team. And that the dichotomy, the split, the difference between those two is more extreme for Boise than the average team. And thus, that when people are just kind of taking an average of their performance, they're doing them a disservice. You've got to look at them as a road team and a home team, and as a road team, they're overvalued.
Exactly. They may be 78-2 straight up at home since 1999, but this one's in the Georgia Dome. And more importantly, this Boise State team has really hurt the odds makers because they've covered numbers. Only 3 teams in all of college football have covered 60% or better the last decade. And Boise State's one of those teams.
Who's the other two?
Virginia Tech and your alma mater, Ohio State, are the only teams that have gone 60% ATS or better over the 10-year span. And Boise over the last 2 years has gotten a lot of money week in and week out from the betting public.
But let's talk about this because there's really two different types of good teams that can cover a lot. One is going to be the good teams that are often, that in a weaker conference, that are often laying double digits, all the way up to past 3 touchdowns, in which they have an offense that just keeps the pedal to the metal. They end up winning 49-7, or they could have won 28-7 just the same.
Exactly.
All right. So Boise clearly falls into that category. Now you've got the other type of team, which is the type that's going to be playing in a tough conference. They're going to be underdogs often on the road, but they just win more than they lose. They're typically undervalued. They win more than they lose. It seems like if Boise is that first type, the blowout team, does that really serve them too well here?
I think Boise...
The answer is no.
No, because it was the level of competition.
Exactly.
Now they're in the Mountain West. They're going up a little tier. I mean, again, they're not going up against the SEC or the
But what
Big
I'm saying
Ten.
is it's another example where Boise's ATS record is causing an overinflation. It's
Right.
like and it's not applicable, just like the
No,
home.
no, it's against that level of competition. They're not
Exactly.
playing Idaho this week. They're playing Georgia.
So we got 2 reasons they're overvalued ATS. Let's talk about the way that this game was responded to with the Gold Nugget early batting. You may or may not know this. Where did this game open at?
I saw no change at all.
All right, so the
3.5 and
well, it actually opened and moved very quickly. It actually opened at 6 this game.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it was bet the first day.
The first
all the
number
way
I
down.
saw was. Go ahead.
So the first number you saw was 3.5.
Yeah.
All right, so the wise guys clearly like
The dog there.
dog here, but they liked it at 6 and at 5.5 and
Sure.
5. Okay, now I actually saw it. This is interesting. I actually saw it dip down to 2, if I'm not mistaken. Now, that 3.5, when did that number come out?
That's where I saw it before we came on.
All right, so, but what I'm saying is the opening number. When did you? What did you see as the open? 3.5.
3.5.
And when did it open at that number?
Weeks back.
All right, so it's been weeks.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
because I don't quote me on this, and again, I certainly don't have a photographic memory. I think it actually dipped down to 2, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
So, and it makes sense if the public is able to get Boise at 2.
They're going to bet it back up.
So, all right. So any other reasons for the perceived value?
It's simple. You keep hearing that this Boise State team is loaded with seniors, 18 seniors expected to start this year. But the fact is, 2 of these seniors are on the offensive line and have never started. Their wide receivers are brand new. They lost 2 all-WAC wide receivers to the NFL. So I think it's going to take a little longer for Moore to get comfortable with these receivers. His studs are gone. Like I said, he has an offensive line with 2 new starters on it. And on defense, 4 seniors never started before. So even though this team may look mature, these aren't starters. And now you're going up against a Georgia team who last year's record, 6-7, is so misleading. If you look at their 2009 stats, they improved tremendously from 2009 to 2010, meaning they scored more points a game. They put up more yards on offense. They gave up less yards defensively. It just didn't translate into wins. They didn't get any of the lucky bounces. I think when a team continues to improve statistically, sooner or later, that's going to register on their ledger.
And that brings up a great point about all football handicapping. Baseball, 162 games. NBA, 82 games. College basketball, almost 40 games. In football, you've got a dozen, 13 games in a bowl game. NFL, 16 plus the playoffs. Much, much smaller numbers of games. Thus, a team, there can be aberrations or flukes or whatever you want to call them that last the entire season. Imagine in baseball, the Pirates have had, I think, 13-3 runs.
Right.
Imagine if in that 16 games in the NFL season, the Pirates would have been an NFL team that went 13-3. It would have been like, oh my God, they're one of the best teams. But they're not one of the best teams in baseball. And the multiple games show that. In football, we don't get a chance to see that. That's why considering luck factors, how many close games did they lose, how many turnovers did they have? Because turnovers oftentimes are not the fault. There's there's a lot of debate amongst the stats guys as how much responsibility a team has for the turnovers that it gives up.
Right.
But everyone agrees it's less than 100%. So there's a lot of missed field goals. There's a lot of fluky different things.
And fumbles. I mean, they say you have a 50-50 chance. If you see a team fumble the ball 20 times last year but lost 16 of them, that luck factor isn't going their way.
So what you're saying is, and this will be a reoccurring theme throughout all of the football handicapping, is you look at Georgia and say this was an unlucky team. They underperformed last year, not based on expectation, but based upon their true talent level.
Exactly. They returned 7 starters on defense. They only allowed 22 points a game last year. This defensive front line is too fast for Boise State. Boise has never seen this much speed up front. That's going to be the difference maker. I'm telling you, they have a revamped offensive line, and now you're going against one of the fastest front fours in all of the SEC. They're going to be in a lot of trouble there.
What do you think of the under here?
I think it's a good bet.
Because if the O-line is going to be a problem, Boise's probably being overvalued in their ability to score. Unless Georgia's going to blow them out.
I like the under, and I think you're better off betting it now because I think that's what the sharp money is going to do come game day. I think they're going to see that value that you just saw, RJ. Because at 51, I think it could only go down from there. I don't think it's going to go up anymore.
Give us your official pick.
Bottom line, I really like Georgia to win this game. I don't think they're really going to need these points. Don't worry about all the talk about the revamped offensive line for Georgia. If you remember, the offensive line last year couldn't open up holes for anybody. That's a plus that they're revamping this offensive line. Usually people worry when they hear those things. Don't in this case. This is exactly what this team needed. I really think they go out there and get the win at home.
What's the score?
In the Dome.
What's the score?
I like them to win this game 24-14, 24-17 tops.
All right. Let's do this. You got 2 football games this week. I want you to designate each week a best bet. So it seems like between you had LSU in the prior video, and you can get that at pregame.tv. And then you've got Georgia. Which one do you like better?
I like LSU.
All right, so
Baton
LSU's,
Rouge, baby.
LSU's going to be your best bet.
Yes, it is.
All right, guys, we want these videos to be the start of the conversation. And tell us if you agree with VR. Tell them if you think his shirt looks funny. Whatever it is, we want to hear about it. Tomorrow, we're going to be back with videos with Marco and Dustin, the new star of boxing and MMA, and VR are going to be doing boxing, right?
Yeah, baby. HBO title fight Saturday night.
And football is here, guys. Every week we're going to be having videos from VR, Marco, me, and a
Special
few
guests.
new
Special
special
guests.
guys, man. It's exciting. Talk to you then.